what you would do is you would load the bag and the ball and everything like that, and then you would pierce the bag, insert a quill, and the quill would be full of basically powder stacked up. Perhaps there's something to do with that, or perhaps I'm not sure. Some sort of piece of artillery thing. Anyway, you put the quill in, and that's what you'd touch with the horn, and you had to be careful not to crack the quill or break it. Yes, so yeah, puncture like a little powder trail, and then you hit that with a linstock, which is a little bit of match cord, which is the original thing used to fire muskets. It was a bit of match cord or hand cannons. Apologies. So yeah, you would hit it with a bit of linstock. So essentially, a cannon in this period is just an embiggened hand cannon from the earlier period that has much less chance of exploding, and essentially the mechanism is exactly the same. The firing mechanism. Remember, weapons of this period are fired normally externally. So what that means is you'll have and always have like a puncture. So something from the outside is going into the breech, into the actual barrel to fire the weapon. Even using the word breech is a little bit iffy. So you've got your round cannon, and it's got a hole in the top. You've got your musket, and it's got a hole in the side where the pan is. So you got the pan and a little hole there. Pan, and the frizzen is the pad up the top. So everything is external combustion, internal chain reaction, or like a linstock hitting it. In the early days, you used to have like a bit of match held in front, and it would actually come back towards your face and go like that, like straight back towards you, which looks cool, but is incredibly dangerous, especially when you're loading like loose powder as they were back then. So, anyway, your cannon is essentially a whole bunch of ammunition stacked up. It would have what's called a caisson. Caisson is what's normally called. Some people mispronounce caisson. All different names for it. It's basically a box on wheels with a whole bunch of extra shot in it. In fact, I actually have a British cannon here, and you can tell the difference between a British cannon and a French cannon. British cannons are normally painted this grey colour, but that's just was it Space Wolf grey or something? It's like a grey wash with Nuln oil, which I wasn't really happy with. So for now on, I'm using strong tone and just white dry brush. And it's sort of this greyish colour with these. Anyway, the bit I'm trying to show you here, they could be brass or steel. British or brass or iron. Sorry, British normally went brass. Brass is much. Was it brass? Was heavier or lighter? I can't remember. No, sorry. Yeah, brass was lighter, but less durable. So it was a lighter cannon, but it was much less durable. It would wear out faster than a proper steel cannon, but an iron cannon. Steel is iron anyway. It's just more carbon in the iron anyway. Bronze is generally what you see, and bronze looks much better as far as I'm concerned. I've done all the fittings in bronze, even though some of them might be done in iron or steel or something. Painting painting the spoked wheels always drives me nuts. Anyway, that giant tangent aside, what I'm trying to point out is these two boxes on the front here, which I still have to paint the tops of. These are your onboard ammunition, if you like. These are your what would they call it? A ready ammunition or something like that. To borrow a modern phrase, your ready ammunition. This is you're towing it. You'd have a limber here, horse team at the front for a foot cannon. There'd be two horses, one or two, hooked up to a limber, which would be towing this. Get into a position, put it down, wheel it towards the enemy, and you can load ammunition from this. Meanwhile, your caisson will be set up further behind, up to 60, 70 feet behind. You wanted that out of distance of possible counter battery fire, because if something hit that, that's bad, because there's 60, 50, 60 bags of powder in there. You don't want that going off. So anyway, so you have little ready ammunition things here. That's not what they were called, but it's a good enough term. And each of these would contain, I think it's 2 or 3 shot per each one. So you'd have sort of you'd probably generally put round shot in there, but you can put whatever you want. But two or three round shot, or two or three, maybe 2 round shot and 3 grape shot, or 4 round shot total, or something like that. Just for the gunners to get straight away. That could be more. I'm going off memory here. This is just something I sort of had done this earlier. So just to give you an idea of scale for that. Anyway. I'd like to also point out that cannon barrels are much smaller than we always think they are, or at least than I always think they are. Like, that is very small. When you consider that wheel is probably the height of a man, that's a very skinny cannon barrel. 6-pound ball you can sort of pick up in 2 hands, so like that. This is for sharp practice. This particular cannon, it's a 6-pounder. I prefer 3-pounders and things for sharp practice, which are really, really tiny. But yeah, anyway, it'll work as a light cannon in sharp practice. Yeah, but these 6-pounders were your basic guns. You have 9-pounders as well. This screw lever here, which I've got to repaint the bottom of, that adjusts your height. So you would grab that, screw it up and down manually. That adjusts your height. You would have a little touch hole back here where you'd hit the thing. It would fire. And again, British has one tail. The French have these 2 sort of parallel tails that sort of joined together, and they have actually more ammunition sitting inside the middle of the tail there. So the French actually have more ready ammunition stowed on the gun. French artillery is generally considered better. I personally like the look of British artillery. I think it looks much cooler. You can definitely see, how cool this is. And then, just as a little side note, when they first developed the Maxim guns, the machine guns, they took the barrel of the cannon off, and they simply stuck a Maxim gun on there. So a machine gun. Let's see if I haven't got a Maxim, but I've got a Lewis gun somewhere. Yes. Of course I have. So you can imagine something sort of like that, sitting on there, and they actually would put a little seat here, and the guy would just sit on there with a little Maxim gun, and he'd fire from something like this. And sometimes they'd put a shield in front of it, but they kept the ready ammunition things there too. So the people think that seems to be like, they were going to just go take their artillery, put Maxims on it, and use Maxims like artillery. But that was more of a stopgap while they were developing tripods. It was never envisioned that these things would be used to house Maxim guns. They were used to house Gatling guns, but that's purely because a Gatling gun needs a platform like this to fire from. Again, if I may borrow some modern terms, it looks much less light bluey in real life. It looks much more sort of light grey, which is the British colour of choice. Not all countries painted their... got a bit of something on there. Not all countries painted their limbers, and of course, if you were building limbers in the field, you wouldn't probably have access to paint. These wheels can be replaced easily enough that would carry spares. Somewhere in the peninsula with Wellington, or in Russia with Napoleon, you can just go into a village and get a not a Cooper. I can't remember. You can get someone who makes wheels to just knock some of these up, or if you could, potentially you could at a pinch take some wheels off something else. Although you have to be quite careful. Although in saying that, by the end of the Napoleonic Wars, the French army had gone through a process of standardization. Now, what the French had tried to do is standardize everything. There's a very famous Frenchman who came through, implemented the metric system, a vast attempt at standardization. And I mean things like, make sure that this towing hook, which the French was different, it was like a housing, anyway. Make sure the towing hook was the same on all the guns. All the artillery should have the same tow hook. All the artillery should have the same screw. Use heavy-duty ones on light guns. Whatever, it's easier to just make the heavy ones. The wheels should all be the same, and by the time he had finished, there were still 19 different types of wheel in use with the French artillery. I can't even name 19 different types of artillery, so, I probably could if I tried, but you know what I mean. The people get very precious about things like, that's not this, and this isn't that. If your wheels, perhaps, say if you pick this up, I love going on eBay and buying broken stuff and sort of seeing what I can do with it. So say you got this on eBay, or say worst comes to worst, you drop this and it's bent. There's metal, so you can sort of bend it back in. a plastic one, say you shattered one of the spoked wheels on a plastic one, you're like, oh no. You look around, and I found some MDF like spoked wheels the other day. I was like, oh, you know, I'll put these MDF spoke wheels, and I'll take this one off and put 2 MDF spoke wheels on. You're worried, oh, someone will call me out, someone will call me out. Realistically, while not provable, it's certainly well within the realms of possibility. Again, this looks really light blue on the camera here. That's just my white balance is a bit off. I probably shouldn't have, not my white balance is off, my exposure and everything's off, because I had started with a plain white mini. I wanted to see the details on it anyway. Yes, so even if you had different spokes, or even a different cannon, so you got a French one or something, if you buy the Perry Miniatures American Civil War kit, it comes with some, what they called Napoleons, which were the 12-pounder versions, and some 6-pounder cannons like this. So if you lost this metal one, you could put one of the plastic ones on there. It really wouldn't make that much of a difference. Or you could replace this cannon barrel with a French cannon barrel, maybe. I mean, artillery is sort of one of these things that you have to keep running. It's something that you're not going to lose a gun just because the barrel came off when you can just get a French barrel. Like, say you smashed a French limber with a cannonball, and you hit a French gun with a cannonball, and you smashed out this central piece here. You smashed out that, so you can't use it again. But and then your barrel somehow got a rupture. They would run like a tool down it, like a scouring thing with all this metal splayed outside, and if it got snagged, that was it. You didn't fire that gun anymore. Part of the loading procedure was to run this thing down it to look for cracks, and they found a crack in this gun. That's it. They DQ'd it. It was it. These things could blow up. You did not want a pipe bomb, which is what this would just become. So yeah, if they DQ'd this gun, that was out. The barrel was out. Everything else is still useful, but you could maybe switch that. You would need some facilities to do that in. Maybe not like a factory, but you would definitely need somewhere to sort of, like a really good stout. No, it had to be a very stout tree, but you know, you could do it. It'd just be incredibly difficult. So yeah, if you have to have, you know, French guns on the top of that, I'm just thinking if you buy, if you have a whole bunch of these limbers left over, and you want some guns on there, I've actually have no shortage of guns, because I bought a HMS Victory kit, and I would recommend anybody buy this. I cannot remember what size it was. Maybe I'm not even going to try and guess. It was a giant HMS Victory, which is Nelson's flagship. I think it was like a 122 gun ship. And the guns that it comes with are perfect 6-pounders in this scale. So I've got like 120 6-pounder plastic guns. And there's a company called Battlefield Accessories who sell MDF, what do they call these things? Carriages. MDF carriages that you put your own gun barrels on. So I personally have just, no shortage, but I know there are people out there who buy the Perry kit and then they got one left over and they want to know what they do with it. So yeah, it is perfectly acceptable to put some leftover French guns on there. You probably wouldn't put Russian guns on a British limber, but you could definitely put them on a French limber. So yeah, it's sort of the principle of, just because a part of this is out, if you can replace it, you should. Especially in the peninsula where everything mattered. Or somewhere like Russia where everything mattered. You didn't have depots to send stuff back to. Or if you did, they were really far away. Like the British depots were back in Portugal. At least for most of the peninsula, or most of the early part that I'm looking at here. So like, the DQ the gun, that's a modern term, but anyway, you take it all the way back to Portugal. When you could just swap something out, like the axles or something. Anyway, I'm rambling here for too long, so I will get back to actually painting this miniature that I'm supposed to be painting. So talking about artillery, I don't know much about artillery, but it is something I'm very interested in. So it's something I'm reading a lot up on. And yes, the rate of fire of artillery is perhaps much faster than people think, or much slower than people think. It seems like people have these radical extremes. Anyway, and the range of artillery, like 300 yards, is canister range. So when you see these movies and these guys are fighting so close to artillery, like that's canister range. We're getting hit with a shotgun there. And you could do what they did, double canister, where you put 2 canister things in there and blow out 2 canisters. There's a good, okay, this is a big tangent, but I'll just put it here. Iraq veteran 8888 put out a video called "Don't Put Smokeless Powder in Your Black Powder Guns." Anyway, they filled up a black powder gun full of black powder and shoved a couple of balls down the end of it and fired it, and it sort of fired right, it didn't blow up. And so you could double or triple load one of these cannons at close range with like a ball and 2 canister or something. It's not recommended, and I personally wouldn't do it, but you could do it. And a crew that panicked, not led properly, sort of more American Civil War than this. But anyway. So yeah, close range artillery is brutal and very, very deadly, which is yeah. So anytime you see in a movie these artillery pieces so close, that's their ideal killing area. It's sort of like a think of it like a Sherman tank. Infantry being about 1.5 kilometers away from a Sherman in North Africa on a flat area, like it's just the perfect killing ground for that Sherman. Infantry got to close. They got no hope whatsoever of knocking it out. Say they had bazookas even. They got no hope whatsoever. So it's that artillery up close is very, very deadly. Contrary to a lot of movies and stuff will tell you. Anyway, this guy is ready to slap some a wash on. And I have a rule, so I will paint the plume white off camera. I have a rule, same as when I very rarely stream on Twitch, is that I don't show you washing, because washes are just boring. Everything else, I think there's sort of like a little bit of technique to it, but a wash, you literally just blah, 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 blah. Take a little bit out of the recesses, and that's it. This strong tone is the stuff I'm playing around with. The dark tone is what I normally go for. The strong tone, I was worried about it staining, but that's it there, and that's it over Nuln Oil, sorry. It's perhaps a little too dark, but the staining was nowhere near as bad as I thought it would be. And I now have just realised that I forgot to do 8 friggin' Shako plates, which is going to be great. Anyway, the things you notice. Anyway, so I'll get to that, and then we'll jump back in after the wash is dried for the interesting part, which is the highlighting up. So here we go. Again, another thin coat over that with the yellow, and it's good. I've never actually seen Duncan's videos. I might be the only person in the world who hasn't, but you know, he's obviously quite famous for that 2 thin coats thing. Make sure you get this bit here, because this is sort of like a little lace work that we'll come back to later. Don't worry about like picking out the individual bits now. Really, I shouldn't have done those. Well, I shouldn't say I shouldn't. I needn't have done those. This had to be done here, because this is going to get a wash, and that'll go in the recesses there, and then we'll just come back and smack those there like that. Well, actually like that. So here you can see the difference pre and post wash. So on the left we've got the post wash, the post highlight. So look at the face there. Face is completely bleh as opposed to that. The lace on the front of it is just a big square block. Here there's much more depth and much more colour to it. The fingers are yeah, again you see the thing that a wash does. The tuft there has not actually been done. That's still bare metal. You can see the huge difference there. Obviously all the piping has to be done. Piping is the little highlight that's going to go around the edge. Yes, you can see there's a big difference. Even the tunic, see how flat this one looks? Whereas this one's got depth to it. It almost looks blended. It isn't, but it almost looks blended. That's all. That's really the best I can hope for. Is it looks like, and someone may assume accidentally. I would of course correct them, but you know what people don't vocalize can't be corrected, I suppose. I also like to point out how amazing these faces are. Faces are the one thing I would struggle with, but if I can get that quality out of the face, that's a phenomenal face there. You can actually see the squinting of this guy. You know, as cannons are actually much. Am I going to go another? Yeah, I'll go another round about cannons. Cannons are actually friggin' brutal to drag those MFs around. Even modern artillery guys would be tough, big, strong blokes. Or they have women in that. I suppose they have women in the artillery too. But anyway, big, strong blokes for dragging artillery pieces around. Maybe not so much today. Well, no, I shouldn't say not so much. Anyway, especially back then, I'll say. Dragging these big bastards of things around. These artillery pieces are heavy. That's a giant chunk of bronze there. Or iron or whatever, depending on what type of gun and when you're talking about. On this big thing, you got to pick this up. So you're firing at the enemy that way, and 15 degrees that way, when your brigade gets in trouble, and you have to switch aim over there. You got to get a trail spike up and drag that cannon around like that. Yeah, trail spike and drag it. A trail spike is just like literally just a crowbar. And just hook it in and drag the cannon around. And when this fires, it's not like a movie where it sort of goes poof, it sort of just goes poof, and like that. This thing will recoil 15 to 20 feet, depending on the type of gun. It'll just. So if you're taking your firing line from say here, and this is where you've got your range in, you've observed the fall of shot as best you can with these sort of things. It'll fly back here. You got to push manually this thing all the way back up to here again before you can do anything with it, before you can even load it. So the actual loading of a cannon itself isn't that time intensive. It's the checking to see if it's defective, making sure it's not DQ'd, dragging it back into position. And in an emergency, of course, you could fire the gun. But by that time, you're getting very close to your caissons. Very, very close to your reserves of ammunition. You're losing all your sight picture, essentially. That's basically the same as these sci-fi. I'll put a picture up of this Space Marine nonsense, where they take this thing you see in sci-fi all the time. They take the scope off the rifle and look through the scope instead of just looking through it on the rifle. So you've completely erased all your alignment. You've lost your 0 point. So basically, yeah, if you keep firing the cannon back, number one, you're losing ground to the enemy. Your own guys don't know where you are. You risk, there's 2 battalions here and you're in the middle. You'll lose your peripheral fire, which is not good. So yeah, you gotta be tough and strong to carry these cannons. That's why a lot of guys would strip down to just shirts or even just trousers or pants or something. No self-respecting gentleman of this period would ever take off their pants, understand. Australians and British Australians in the Pacific definitely would have got down their jocks and underwear, and maybe even some of the less cultured Americans might have done that too, but not in this period at all. Yeah, shirts might have come off, but that's about it. Anyway, that's it. So I'll leave it here and give it a wash, and then come back for the next video where I will do all of the highlight work. So thanks very much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Make sure you subscribe and jump in, leave a comment down there. Are you enjoying these type of videos? Because I've got so many historical minis I could paint and show you guys what I do with them and sort of ramble about them. Maybe that's the way for the future of this channel, but at least part of the way of the future. Let me know if you guys aren't enjoying this. I'll go back to what I was doing before, or I'll try something new. Thanks very much for watching. Have a wonderful day.